you lose that kind of bit of objective control. However, when you are able to change it up and of course with Nunu has such strong objective control, such a good ability to kind of do an instant burst down, it makes it much easier to do so. As we are, of course, back into champion select now, just chortling along, and I'm assuming it's same picks up to that Yorick.
The teams will just be running through what they drafted before. What we don't have though actually is the red 5 pick for University of Canberra, their mid laner.
Of course, if that Yorick, I'm not sure if that Yorick's being ruled on to be having to be played or not. I mean, it's not terrible having that Yorick locked in. It's not the best, but it's not the worst either.
But it's a matter of whether or not. I don't really think Toppy
wants to play that. No, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say you put your star carry player back onto a Yorick. However, the case will be that as we see them continuing to get back to this draft again. That center pick that we highlighted before. Interesting to see they haven't gone for Luxona, but maybe into the Graves they thought they might need a little bit more of balanced damage or something. I'm not sure why they've opted for the center, but I suppose global pressure maybe means they're going to play more towards top side, and center can offer that support up towards the enemy other side of the lap if they're gonna other side of the map. Sorry, if they are going to isolate the bot lane, and if Smog here is going to play towards Toppy up on the top side.
Well, it all depends on what Toppy is actually going to end up with. I'm interested to see whether or not the Yorick is going to get rulebooked.
Because if they're stuck with the Yorick, that's quite unfortunate. It's still not terrible. There's still definitely ways to win and ways to play around with a Yorick. Just means you have to play more for a 4-1 style, which the rest of that comp is kind of built to do. You've got Lucian who can kind of function in a side lane as well to help clear that up, and then of course to help your center in the middle lane with the wave clear. Lux and Nunu aren't a terrible 4-man squad to play a 4-1 with, as we see now what that last lock-in will be here for Brazza, assumingly going towards Toppy up on the top side.
Oh no, it's going to be a filthy set. I despise this champion. Almost as much as I despise Twitch chat accusing me of having my microphone muted.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those problematic situations, especially into that Ornn too. The ability to brush that Blade of the Wrong King allows him to actually have a potential to take down the big tank in the 1v1, and makes it a lot harder for the set to really contest Ornn in that top lane matchup, as Ornn generally survives quite well up there into any matchup. And the final lock in here looks like it will be a Nautilus for University of Canberra, which means maybe Karma's being sent mid.
A sinner pick, if I ever.
I feel like that's a pretty bad matchup for the Karma in mid. I feel like she can't do much versus Lucian early on. I think she's going to get pushed off, and it's going to be a little bit difficult for her.
I think what Karma's looking for is to basically obtain a free lane where she can't fall victim to the power of the Nunu, and Lucian early on, and basically curve out the power into the mid game where she can play through the Graves.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those. It looks like this will be more of a buff up Graves. Graves is going to be that kind of carry for the 2v2. And I think early on in the 2v2, I would give the tipping hat to Karma and the Graves, of course. Nunu does have a decent amount of damage early on. Of course, Lucian, a powerhouse in the early game. But in this 1v1, 2v2, the buffed up Graves, especially early on, could be potentially devastating. And given the fact he's also going for Ghost instead of Flash as well, which is something I find a bit peculiar.
Graves, staying true to his name, I find that summoner choice to be debatable.
It's an interesting
the fleet footwork as well. That is.
Yeah, it's phase rush, right? Phase rush is supposed to go on Graves.
Yeah, I think instead of having the Flash, the fleet footwork and Ghost is supposed to be some kind of Best Buy version of phase rush.
Best Buy version. Oh god, that's the way you got to go. The Best Buy version for University of Canberra, but we should be jumping onto the Rift extremely shortly here as we see these two sides going head to head.
Nautilus is going to have such a difficult time in this lane against Senalux. There's just no real way of him obtaining priority with an Ezreal into a Glacial Augment center.
Level 1, though, of course, they have priority of Ezreal, naturally gets that push with the extra Qs that he throws in, but maybe the thought behind the Nautilus here, if a Lux or Senna is on the end of one of those Nautilus hooks, it could be very difficult to get out, as both of them are quite squishy champions, and if the Graves decides to come down towards this bot lane, a decent amount of damage could be pumped out quite quickly by Ezreal and Graves, of course, in the early game, so a little bit careful these Lux and Senna may have to be if Nautilus is able to get into position to land one of those Qs.
I'm just interested to see how the Karma works in the mid lane, because Cobra doesn't seem like quite the player to play these flex picks in the mid lane. I always thought of Cobra as more of a typical mid lane player where he's more comfortable on the Zed, Orianna, Yasuo. But I guess the skills transfer over to Karma semi decently.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the player to watch for this match is going to have to be Toppy up here in the top side, up against KSTTT. I'm not sure how we're supposed to say it.
Oh yes, and with of course all naturally building those big health items, the set ultimate could be quite terrifying for the low health that
Yeah.
Graves and Karma and Ezreal both typically have in the early mid game.
Yeah, a slam in there. Oh, what's it called? I can't think of the ability name for his ult now. A showstopper. A showstopper into the middle of, Karma, Graves, Ezreal, with either the Nautilus or the Ornn could be devastating, as both those champions get quite tanky, especially if Nautilus goes for the,
Dead Man's Plate.
yeah, I was going to say if Nautilus goes for the, what's it called? Gargoyle Stoneplate, pops that active.
Oh,
It's going
right,
to
of
do a
course.
ridiculous multiplier as well onto that.
The percentage B conversion on the showstopper from set is quite spooky, yes.
Yeah, and Choppy has shown quite a mastery of support TP flanks in the previous matches as well. So can I potentially look for a team fight where Toppy is going to be in a side lane and come in with that teleport to match up quite heavily and help his team out, and of course getting the win. Griffith probably heavy favourites, I'd say, in this matchup, but University of Canberra still out here hunting for their first ring in the QT 2020
You know what I'm
Intervarsity
hunting for
competition
at the moment? I think I'm hunting for whoever owns the Waffle Iron PC at the moment, as we're still stuck here on 96%.
As we're waiting to jump into this game. Unfortunately, it's been a bit of a slow start. We're supposed to start at 7, about 36 minutes delayed, but that's okay. Some stuff like this happens, especially given the fact we're running these tournaments online and due to some of the constraints because of recent global conditions makes it a little bit more difficult to run these things smoothly. But once we get into this game, I'm expecting some high quality League of Legends coming your way.
And I dare say that's also a contributing factor to my absolute distaste for Set. I mean, not only is he disgusting pick flexed into almost every single lane, but he does not practice social distancing very well.
No, he's not very good at social distancing. Doesn't
In
have any gap.
between,
I mean, he doesn't have any gap closes. He can't just jump into your bubble. He has to
No.
run at you quite quickly.
well, depending on what flavor of Set you see, usually I see the Hex Flash.
X-Flash
Set.
set. So it's just this set run here by Toppy doesn't have any sorcery runes, so therefore doesn't have that
No.
Nimbus cloak,
We're going to be
which is one
looking
of Set's big selling points.
instead of a tank kind of frontline set, we're going to be looking at more of the carry set, which will be interesting to see what items he ends up going for. I remember before Set was teched as a support and juggler, Set was quite a hot topic of contention on what items he should build first. Black Cleaver actually could be insanely high value here, seeing as he has an 80 mid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, able to shred through that armor. His armor will be stacked as their full team is full AD. I suppose it's not actually full AD. They have 2 AP, but I mean, Lux is going to have a lot of AP damage, I'm assuming. And of course, Nunu will presumably be building towards full tank. The only AP Nunu that's kind of come to success recently has been that Nunu in the mid lane, as we see both these sides are loading out to the Rift.
And yeah, I suppose Lux, since she has the Guardian rune, will probably be building towards the actual support items, Athene's items.
Yeah, given the fact it's not going to be one of those solo Q Luxes that goes Comet, steals all your kills, and of course, builds Ludens into Morellos into Death Caps and complains while she gets one shot and does no damage, given the fact it takes her 40 minutes to get 3 items.
And I'll just be 1 second. Thank you, Twitch chat, for letting me know that the game sound is way too loud.
We're just going to adjust that and turn that down. It's instantly into a pause 2, so we'll just be waiting for Lux to actually join us here in the champion, or not a champion, select in the Summoner's Rift Arena. Could be potentially issues here on the side for Griffith. They can't get into game because I believe they only have 10 minutes of pause time, I think, each, or maybe it's 15, split 50-50 down the middle for that 30 minute
What do you think about the
total.
skins currently on display on screen?
I mean, skins win games. That's all I'm saying. And these two players haven't spent their money wisely. They've got the older skins, not as a virtually
Subterranean
upgraded.
Nautilus looks quite drag actually compared to the newer ones. Conqueror Nautilus quite flashy as well, but also the Astro Nautilus with his new chroma is quite slick looking.
The other one, obviously the other one we can see on screen here is, of course, Riot Graves. Interesting to see he's gone for that one. As the, I would say the most popular Graves skin is probably Mafia Graves, right? With the, I've heard from Graves players that's the easiest skin to do animation cancelling on.
But I'm quite partial to the Professor Graves, actually.
Professor Graves, the new one
Professor
that's
Graves
cooked.
looks very, very clean. Not clean shaven, still sporting that abundant facial growth. But
Does he have his cigar?
yes,
He got
of
given his
course.
cigar for the professor skin.
Yes,
Because they've
it's
had
only natural.
it's been taken off of him all the time, right? He just want he just wants to have a nice smoke, but he just can't decide. Is he allowed to do it inside, outside? We don't know. Is he in France? Is he in Australia? We don't know where he is. He just wants his cigar. That's all we know. As we are still waiting to jump into game.
It looks like both teams are ready, and we're about to unpause as the top laner has some unfriendly things to say about the support.
Of course, playing that set, its targets are most likely there's younger players there down the bottom. As you see, a very safe start here from the University of Canberra. Griffith, of course, missing a member, so haven't been able to set up that 5-man spread across the map. Both these sides obviously going to look to get off to a hot start this game, and interesting to see how they go. Doran's ring start for Karma. I mean, if I'm playing Karma, I don't know if that's the optimal way to go for, but what are your thoughts on the starting items, I suppose, for the few champions we can see at least, and the keystones in general?
I think Doran's ring's pretty standard on Karma. She has absolutely insane base mana regen, and I believe I have played Karma mid myself quite a lot, and with a Doran's ring level 1, she has about 3.4 mana regen per second.
Okay. Yeah, that instant mana regen, of course, helping out with the Doran's ring. We will be going to a quick pause for 30 seconds as we are kind of waiting for this game to get underway and get a bit of loading out. As I believe everyone should be coming in quite shortly, as we're just waiting, of course, for the Griffith University support, Brazza here to get involved in this matchup. As you know, it would be a little bit unfair to play this game 4v5, but given the fact Griffith are 2-0 off, maybe the University of Canberra needs a little handicap.
Alright, standard 5-man spread. Both teams.
From both sides. Where do you think these junglers should look to play towards this game?
It's quite interesting because from Smog's perspective, the only lane that really has any kind of setup is going to be Toppy in the top lane. So I think what Nunu's going to be doing here is resetting for Red Trinket and then probably starting bot side and moving up the top. As for Graves has quite a difficult time because the Nautilus and Ezreal are not going to have lane prio into the center Lux. Could potentially make for a play down bot lane if the center Lux overextend early on. But we'll have to see how it starts, of course.
Yeah,
it looks like
especially as well if
Nunu is starting from that bot side. That is the one aspect that I was pretty certain.
It's going to be that traditional red-blue Gromp start for an instant level 3 rush into Scuttle, timing into looking out to clear further in the map as both these sides will just start off very calmly. I mean, this nice Demacia Vice skin for the Lucian here in the mid lane. I personally prefer the high noon skin myself. If I'm playing my Lucian in the mid lane, he's still instantly getting a big weight advantage over the Karma. Missing a fair few of those minions, though, which is not what you want to see early on. As we see Graves solo starting red, and looks like he will head towards Krugs and go for that classic power farming full clear that the Grave obviously likes to go to. Could potentially look for an invade if he knows where Nunu is starting, or didn't know where Nunu is starting, and maybe you could see a fight early on as Graves could maybe look for an invade in the Gromp, but it probably will not be the case this game, and we'll just end up farming their own junglers. Both these junglers, I mean, Graves especially can't really make much happen early, and looks like Set's already pushing it up in this top side, so it will be a little bit more difficult for Smog here on the Nunu to look towards something up in that early game. But I mean, this matchup up here is going to be very interesting, given the fact that this Ornn is going to struggle so heavily into Set, especially once he gets that Blade of the Ruin King, able to take that tankiness down from the Ornn, and it will not be one of the strongest champions he has been most recently, as we see both these junglers just pathing around, everyone farming quite slowly. And interesting to see this lane priority isn't too heavily in favor, of course.
No, but I like what they're doing, actually. But the bot lane from Griffith is holding the wave in such a way that the enemy can't walk up for CS on the ranged minions, because they're threatening to hit them with a Lux Binding and then a follow-up center route, which is a heavy trade. And here we see Smog coming up with the snowball in the mid lane. Cobra Frost is out back onto tower. The Karma Shield not going to be enough as she actually falls straight away.
And
like,
that instant
gold going over to Smog, quite nice.
Yeah, it's very good to see that if you are that jungler, getting that first gank off, and a little bit silly by the Karma to get caught out there, given the fact they also had a ward to see the Nunu coming in, but obviously a little bit more focused on her lane the Karma was, and unfortunately went down as that route from Lux just misses, as Nunu is now down in this bot lane in the area, matching the Graves for this Scuttle, and big lead already for Griffith University.
And this is actually going to be quite huge for Griffith, because Smog has matched Graves down to bot side, and he's going to look to double crab him now. So yeah, Smog, after his next base, with not only first blood gold, but 2 crabs, is going to be massively ahead.
Interestingly, Lucian also going for the teleporter, will back and grab 2 longswords. So I'm assuming Bulk Rush on the Lucian will be the go, but could also maybe go for an Essence Reaver first item as well, as we see up on the top side. Toppy again getting lane priority over the Ornn, not too worried about the Graves here, as his jungle is all warded up here.
Nunu's on the flank.
Nunu
Lane's pushing
coming in.
towards him. Toppy doesn't have Facebreaker though. Ornn misses the charge out and will not get the flash in time.
And then another kill picked up here goes over to Griffith. Both their solo laners are picking up kills in their 2 lanes, and that's a big advantage here if you're looking towards this mid game where this bot lane, Danny from the Lux and Senna looking to scale probably a little bit more heavily as Lucian and Set, those early game powerhouses, are getting closer and closer towards those first big items.
Oh, and on his first base, the Nunu at 4 minutes picks up not only a Vomi's Tinder, but a machete and a pink ward. He's going to be quite disgusting on the map now.
Yeah, being able to instantly get that bunch of health straight away from the Nunu here. Looks like he will obviously be going towards Cinder. Cinder? What's it called?
It will be standard Cinderhulk Nunu, yes.
Yeah, Cinderhulk, that's what it's called. I thought Cinder was the wrong... I couldn't remember the second part of the name for that jungle item there, as we see both of them just pushing up here, looking to sit around in these lanes. Interesting to see that Toppy hasn't gone for more of a freeze and pulling the wave towards him, where he could maybe stamp his will onto this on a little bit heavier. I mean, obviously did get that kill initially, which is a big advantage, but not having that, not letting the wave bounce back to him and constantly pushing it up. I'm thinking he could maybe, stretch out more of an advantage if he were to do that. It already has a 10 CS lead and potentially stretch it to even more if he was playing around the waves a little bit differently.
Toppy is sitting on 1.5k gold as well.
That first base for that set is going to be huge for him.
It'll be interesting to see what he builds, whether it's maybe going to be something like a Cutlass, could be the reason why he's staying for so long for the Black Cleaver Rush, or yeah, potentially
something a little bit more old school like that, Black Cleaver, or potentially Triforce.
And yeah, Griffith Uni just starting up this dragon. Smog is so far ahead of this Graves that there's really no way that they can contest, especially with the early strength of the Lucian.
Precisely, Lucian here.
This is why I found the Nautilus pick to be so strange in Red 5, because look at him in lane. Ezreal is down 9 CS because looking at the wave against Lux and Ascena is just so hard.
Yeah, so much CC available for both of these two
here
players.
we see
The set all comes out.
The tower by Toppy. He's going to chunk Ket KST for about half his HP. Haymaker as he fades away. Quite an interesting trade. Lucian goes for a trade onto the tower. Hits the ultimate onto Karma, but I mean, it's Karma. She's just going to root you and speed away.
Yeah, it was a nice group by Karma. If that didn't come off, it could have been dire straits for her as Cobra here for the University of Canberra, quite low already, going down once in this lane. And not as big a CS gap as maybe you would expect in that mid lane as we see.
And I want to point out, actually, Toppy took that trade with his ultimate onto KST, and he still has TP, and the Ornn's already used his.
Yeah, so we'll be able to get back to lane much more efficiently. Goes for that Cutlass plus Dagger Rush, so we'll be looking towards that Bork here for that send up in the top side, which I think definitely the way to go when you're playing into an Ornn, one of those big tanky champions that's going to have a lot of health and not much else, especially in this early game. Ornn, obviously, the ability to build his stuff in lane has got already a chain mail vest and another 300 gold worth of armor on his side, so we'll be, a little bit resistant to this set, but I mean, the percent health damage isn't going to be mitigated by any armor he's put on, as we see a decent freeze down here in the bot lane by the Griffith duo down here, and makes it very hard for both Herder and doubly Benson to come up and contest this wave.
And I just want to point out, Set didn't actually TP the top lane at all. He walked back, which means the next couple of minutes before KST has TP could be absolutely disastrous for UC. As the Set can rotate in, Nunu's just going to go ahead and snowball through the lane. I believe that snowball is going to time out in about 2 seconds. Does not get the angle. Ezreal has to flash away from the Lux binding as Nautilus disengages with flash and hooks onto the wall as well.
Yeah, and Senna, unfortunately, missing her root, could have maybe skewed up for a kill, but Lucian here in the jungle, clearing out some pink wards, clearing out their vision. There's a little sneaky brush ward, or not brush ward, a green ward that's hidden from view that is actually, very good placement. It's going to spot out Nunu, as Graves here is counter-jungling away the enemy Gromp. One of the most valuable camps now since that jungle change that happened, a while ago now, but was right recent. And Toppy here might have to be a little bit careful he's not caught out by the Graves, given the fact that that side of the map is completely
it seems like
the red team
Smog's going to catch him and ping him out. Toppy's going to rotate down to the Graves. It's interesting to see what will happen on this boss code. Toppy catches him and tosses him straight back over the wall. Graves, where's your flash? He's only got Ghost.
Yeah, no flash available for Graves, but he can't get back over. Didn't even have an E available to maybe try and shuffle over that wall, and that's the weakness of taking the Ghost here from Debatable. Maybe sparking some debates about his gameplay today already, as he goes down, and it was a good invade timing, knowing that Nunu was over there with the wards, but you saw him leave, you saw him walk towards, and just stayed a little bit too long, got a little bit too greedy for that blue buff, and unfortunately will go down for his team, and now a 2,000 gold lead for Griffith, plus the Herald means there's going to be another at least 300 gold into their pockets if they're able to get that charge off, as Ornn could maybe be caught out here too, but University of Canberra have rotated up here.
But Dudley Benson's rotated in. Do you think the Nautilus goes for a hook here? KSG's just heavy trading. I don't think Toppy knows. Graves makes it in, flashes out of the Haymaker. KST actually misses the Ornn ultimate. Call of the Forge God going wide onto Toppy as he just flashes and casually walks away. Nautilus walks up top lane to say hey before walking back.
Yeah, it doesn't have that damage to lock down the set or the crowd control from either, so it is that Ornn ultimate did actually go wide. A nice flash held there by Toppy to avoid the what's it called, the Forge God there coming out of KSTTT. From the University of Canberra, and already early on in this game is looking very difficult to contest here if you are the University of Canberra. Griffith University already, again, 2 gold up, and they win the scaling later on as well.
And it's quite interesting how the Nunu has just been able to accelerate his lead so much. And speaking of Nunu, here he is on the bot side, hovering, just waiting for them to walk up for CS. 3 pairs of CC go, and 3 pairs of CC go wide. Not only does the binding miss, but the snowball and center root as well.
Yeah, the Ezreal Arcane Shift doing just enough to keep Herdier alive, but 22 CS down in this bot lane. I think, you know, he's really going to rely on that mid-game spike to kind of get back into this game, and I'm not sure the University of Canberra will ever have the time, given how far ahead this Lucian mid is already. And these first big objectives, I mean, the game's not really going to explode for another 5-10 minutes or so until that second Rift Herald is up. Or maybe the next Dragon, they could potentially look to make a stand. But this Lux center bot lane just way too valuable down here. Just forcing their opponents out of lane, putting way too much poke down, as Debatable could maybe be have his blue buff just stolen away.
Debatable gets the smite. Not the end of the world. And Smog doesn't have the damage here to kill Graves.
Yeah, barely walking away there as the hook just goes wide. Could maybe look for an re-engage, but I'm not sure if they really wanted to. A Debatable extremely low, and the Dragon spawning out means it is going to be very difficult for University of Canberra to contest, and this should be the second Dragon going over to Griffith University side.
And this is why Smog is happy to take those kinds of heavy HP trades before an objective spawns, because and he's Nunu. He doesn't mind going down to 50% HP because he's just going to take a big old bite of Dragon, heal back up to full.
Yeah, the Miniman rotates down there from the mid lane. Big leads across the map for Griffith already, as once again, Griffith University going to walk back from their Dragon and not get caught out either. So kind of took one in the face there of University of Canberra, saying there's nothing you can do here. There's nothing you can do to contest us. And that sign of dominance already is probably not a sign you want to see if you're a University of Canberra fan. Here, Griffith University looking very, very strong. Of course, up on the top side as well. All 3 lanes winning, and that's something is very exceptional and something kind of akin to jungle.
And because of the flashes bot lane, looks like Smog's here again. Can he get the snowball extended onto Ezreal? Does so. Both pairs of CC go out at the same time, overlapping them a bit, but it doesn't matter because Brazzers in the end picks up the kill. I suppose with an Ezreal, he's slippery enough to warrant just bursting him down. Ideally, he would have given that over to Chewy, but it's not too much of a disaster.
No, it's not that bad getting those extra kills onto the Nuno. He's the one roaming around the map, making all these plays happen. And if you're feeding your jungler, technically you're feeding all your other lanes as well. So not a terrible way to go. I mean, obviously would prefer it onto a carry, but...
The Nautilus ultimate was also on cooldown at the time.
Yeah, not able to do that.
Used.
How long is the cooldown for... Or not cooldown, but like the channeling time once you land the center route?
You mean the activation time?
Yeah, the activation time, that's what it's called.
I believe it's about 2 seconds.
Yeah, so maybe in Lux Route's 2 seconds or 2.5.
Well, what should have happened obviously was, you know, you organize the CC stack.
Yeah.
But look, that's a play in the minutia.
That's one of those min-maxing things where it doesn't really matter.
It's crazy.
Cobra here,
lane just opens straight up. Cobra having to instantly flash away, and that's pretty much the spookiness of Lucian in the laning phase. Even with this level lead that Karma has and the double Doran's ring. The Lucian is such a demon in the laning phase. Once he activates that PTA and just uses his dash to pass past the minion wave, there's nothing stopping him from just unloading onto you.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the Blade of the Ruin King, the ability to steal away that movement speed and chase this Karma down, she won't be able to just jet away if he has that tagged onto her. It's just so much damage coming out of the Lucian. And Set as well has finished his Blade of the Ruin King, so both of these solo laners have that first crucial item that has been completed. I'm actually surprised they haven't nerfed Blade of the Ruin King at all, since it's been so dominating for so long.
Yeah, before Conqueror got changed to 12 stacks, Blade of the Ruin King was quite meta-defining in the top lane, of course. Now, all the bruisers opt for Grasp instead. As we see Smog, he's no stranger to bot lane, and here he comes for the 4th time. Ezreal looking more like a minion in the lane at this stage.
Yeah, 0-2 down, 20 CS as well. It's very difficult for Herdy here to kind of stay into this game.
It's immensely difficult for him to live because, and I'm going to play this again, the Red 5 Nautilus pick, it's just so confusing into center and Lux.
Yeah, something with a little bit more range, a little bit of ability to kind of poke back and keep this Ezreal safe would have probably been the way to go. You just get so much damage that's unavoidable for the Nautilus, especially if you want to walk up and get any of his stats. There's Toppy up here in the top side, popping the Blade of the Ruin King active,
but the way Blade of the Ruin King.
But probably should have stayed that cooldown for a little later. I mean, it's not a big cooldown; it's only
about sending a message
or something. But it's that message that just don't worry, I've got this item. I'm going to use it on you. I'm going to kill you eventually. Make sure you don't walk away from your tower.
He's saying, "Hey, on, I've got bot diff this game. Here's a Blade of the Ruin King use on me."
I don't need to use my items efficiently. My team's going to carry me anyways. This Toppy, so much damage.
It's just disgusting. The double long-range ultimates smacking debatable onto the tower, but he lives barely on about 5% HP.
And I think there's been a lane swap here from the University of Canberra. I think Ezreal is gone towards the mid lane, while Karma will continue to lane down the bot lane. We'll have to see where Nautilus goes. Maybe he does go. Yeah, he's going to go mid as well. So looks like Cobra here done with the Lucian and Herdia and Dub the Benson done with dealing with this Lux Zena combo from Griffith University. And that means this tower down in the bot lane will not stand for very long. Already he was getting poked down quite heavily, but in a 1v2, there's not going to be much Karma can do to keep this tower alive, as Lucian might struggle in the 2v1, but strong enough to probably even take out Herdia if Smog comes and gives him a hand. So disastrous situation here for University of Canberra. 5 kills down to 5,000 gold as well, and 2 dragons to boot. Not where you want to be, and I believe a Rift Herald use might still be available for the blue side. I'm not sure, as we haven't seen the inventories in a little while.
Yeah, Rift Herald has spawned, I believe, for the 2nd time.
Okay, where they used the first one? Mid, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, this action has been bot lane so heavily
that we'll have to assume it went there. As we see again, this University of Canberra lineup rotating around the map rather early. I mean, with this mid lane rotation early on, you'd expect them to secure probably this Rift Herald having the more members in the area. But
in again to get another symbol, but this time Graves is there to actually intercept, and I think this is where it can get quite disgusting for UC as Ornn hits the ultimate, but Smog still has his flash up. So the Tet comes in with the Facebreaker, lands the CC onto Ezreal and Graves, and Ezreal drops again, 0-3. That man is just having an unfortunate time.
Yeah, very, very difficult for them to really do anything here. I think they just went to try and catch out Lucian, but the rest of the team that came up around, it was a 4v1 that turned into a 4v4 and a loss team fight-wise for the University of Canberra. 3 deaths, as you pointed out, on this Ezreal. Nautilus, the only deathless member for his side, and will be hanging on as this 3rd dragon goes over towards the blue side. I mean,
that is going to be
Dragon Soul is so much closer, and I mean, when it's 3-0 in Dragons and you're this far ahead, especially with the Nunu as well, there's no way that the blue side do not secure the Soul, and with a Cloud Soul in their pockets, that ultimate movement speed going to be very useful on multiple of their members, of course. Lucian probably one that gets the most benefit from it, but Set as well is going to benefit immensely from that massive buff you get to the cooldown reduction on the ultimate.
And I was going to say that if UC had a time to turn this game around, it was going to be around this time of the game, because GU have quite a few squishy members of the team, the Lucian and the bot lane. They're quite low HP people, and if they get hit by an Ornn ultimate, as well as Nautilus ultimate, they could potentially just shatter like Blast.
Yeah, you see Ornn here, though, could be getting quite tanky. Already opted for the Sunfire Cape, as well as this Thornmail he's going to be building up as that 2nd strong item for himself. Going to negate a lot of the auto attack damage coming out of these 280 carries, as well as Toppy as well, who is primarily auto attack based when his damage profile comes out, as they will look to secure this 2nd Herald. Not much that University of Canberra can do, of course, will not win any fights.
They just have to give this up. It's interesting that Lucian's allowed to just keep pushing in mid by himself against an Ornn and a Karma and a Nautilus.
And there's just not much they can do though, right? Because if they ever put that pressure towards Lucian here in the mid lane, it means they will be losing out on the map elsewhere. As you see, the Rift Tower will be picked up. The top tower is gone, the bot tower as well. The mid lane has fallen too, and looks like they will look for a 5-man push down in this mid lane. As
it looks like Miniman's actually looking for a trade onto Nautilus. Blade of the Ruin King clock. He's stuck in a corner and flashes straight forward, but that's not going to get you out of the way of Lucian's blasts. Miniman actually finding himself a solo kill.
Yeah, they also have the Herald charge here available. If they drop it, they should be able to get this tower and potentially the inhibitor tower as well. As Cobra could be caught out in an unfortunate position, as we see Minimem looking towards doing something, but will not be the case. The Herald charge will get off.
Herald charge gonna land. Ezreal's rooted under the tower. Center ult to follow. The tower pretty much drops instantaneously, and Lucian is just pushing forward.
It just does so much damage with this book, plus the little bit of cooldown reduction as well onto that Caulfield's Warhammer, giving that extra bit of 10% CD. It looks like he will be going towards that Essence River for his second item, unless he's going to do something spicy like a Sanguine Blade Lucian. You see,
and they're just running the Goon Squad around the bot side of the map. It feels like, with this complete jungle control that Geo are going to set up, they're going to basically guarantee themselves Air Dragon.
Yeah, and there's not much that University of Canberra can really do to compete against them. It gives, of course, 2 minutes until that Dragon Soul is up and available for them to be taking. But Griffith University looking quite strong here, especially given the fact of the game state. And, having such a big gold lead, I mean, I'm pretty sure the breaking point's like, once you get to 10k, you can pretty much call it that's a one-and-done game if you're 10k gold ahead before the 25-minute mark. After that's probably, what, 15,000 gold? And it's kind of like that's the point of no return.
Well, I think we've already reached that point where once GU show up to an objective and UC come as well, Griffith are just going to whip out their wallets really and say, fellas, check the size of these bills. And University of Canberra are going to have to basically give it up or lose. And both of those are not winning options for them.
Exactly, that's the way it goes. There's nothing that they can do to even try and potentially get back in this game. I mean, the only thing I could say is this Ornn is probably still have some kind of resistance maybe to the damage put out by Griffith University. But again, Nunu here, I mean, I could even see Merit and Nunu going for an AP item to even just add a bit of extra damage profile. Yeah. He's not going to need the extra tankiness. They're far enough ahead.
Yeah, but it looks like W. Benson is actually going to back out here. I guess they're respecting because they don't really know where the other position of Griffith are at the moment.
Yeah, they didn't know that
being so aggressive on this Lux pick. Now the top he has to back them up. And they're just pushing into the bot side enemy jungle.
They're pretty much just waiting, I think, for an opportunity to take the Baron Nashor, who did only spawn about a minute ago, or maybe looking for this Cloud Dragon up. And it's one of those states where, Griffith University has a vice grip on this game, and they're kind of applying pressure by applying nothing. They're saying, look, we've got an atomic bomb. It's going to go off in about 5 minutes. You need to come up and deal with it. You need to come and do something if you are the side of University of Canberra. But there's just nothing they can do against this.
Out in the jungle, or is it actually Smog being caught out? Or an ultimate available? But it looks like they're just going to kind of wave at each other and disengage as Toppy comes in and shows his dominance. Meanwhile, top lane looks like we actually have Miniman going in heavy onto Karma, both dropping down to about 10% HP. But Miniman doesn't have the TP available for this next objective, but Cobra does.
Yeah, could potentially look to rejoin from that bottom side of the map. But so strong is... I mean, even on a 4v5, I'd still give Griffith University the edges. You can see the full edge here. It's just so much gold coming through. I mean, individual players probably have still got another back before they come through, but Senna's already got 2 items completed. Set here is sitting on 2,000 gold and probably go back in. It looks like he's going to go for that Black Cleaver second. Of course, given the fact that Ornn has stacked up so much armor, that's definitely the way you want to go to kind of combat some of that, as that's the way to go, as they will pick up their Dragon Soul. Yeah,
they're actually just spreading out the 3 cores of Griffith on each lane, farming it while the jungle and support takes the objective.
There's just total domination. Yeah, the fact that they're allowed to do that and not get punished for it, and not be misplaying by doing that, it's the correct way to play their current position, just signifies how strong Griffith are in relation to this University of Canberra squad. As the Athenes and Arden Sensor picked up here for the Karma in the mid lane could potentially help support this Graves, but I feel like, given the fact that you do not have a carry in the mid lane, you only have this Ezreal who's very far behind, in this Graves who, again, is equally as far behind. I mean, up in CS and keeping relevant that way, but just damage-wise, I don't think Graves has enough DPS to kind of deal with all the threats that Griffith University have to offer. I think by the time he takes out maybe one of these members from Griffith University, the rest of his team will take him out as well. So,
I mean, how does Graves skirmish against the 2-0-4 Nunu and is set with Black Cleaver, Blade of the Ruin King?
There's not much that Graves can do except hope for luck and hope that their monitors all freeze in the middle of a team fight and they can't hit pause, and then they're able to get
That's
it
always
3 aces in a row.
viable option, yes.
Just hope on hardware failure at the moment.
Guys, no FF. Rely on Telstra diff.
I mean, all Optus, we don't know who they're with. It could be
True.
either provider that goes down. We can't just always blame Telstra for our
Country
poor...
energy, then.
Country. As we see, I mean, Griffith University, I assume they'd move towards the Baron soon enough here. They aren't really doing much they need. Seems to be a little bit of assistance when it comes to pushing, as it's kind of that awkward state where they're strong enough to dominate, but not strong enough to look for dives, look for pushes are debatable.
The Nunu route's going to land in about 2 seconds, but W Benson's got the hook onto the side. They look like they're just going to flee here as the Nunu ult goes wide, but Toppy actually lands a showstopper onto KST in the bot lane and is just going to chase him down. Fade away punch as he just accepts that.
I mean, even through all that armor, I'm not sure how much armor Ornn actually has, but I'd say it'd be around like 200, 250, plus the Ninja Tail, plus the Bramble Vest debuff onto the set, and he's still healing back up to full and doing, 60% of Ornn's health in about 5 seconds. It's a ridiculous amount of damage to come out of that side laner, given the fact he's only got 2 kills as well.
And Toppy still has TB available for this Baron play, as UC are trying to find some way to hold themselves back into this game. KST has to walk over here because he cannot match the set without TP of his own, as Toppy's just beating away at this tower without a minion wave.
As you see, the minion wave will come in now, and Griffith here balancing this Baron so well, forcing them to kind of
And the call of Volchcott actually comes in. They can find Brazza here, but Brazza just flashes over the wall and says, "Thank you very much." Herdia gets half health by the final spark from Lux, as Miniman just starts gunning down people and running them. But Karma with the Mantra speed boost just to accelerate her team out of the fight. And this isn't too bad actually for UC, because if both teams trade time, GU's time is more valuable.
Precisely, but the set meanwhile has pushed all the way down.
Yeah, but he doesn't realize it in time actually, and the root's going to miss. So UC is going to get to disengage, but meanwhile in the bot lane, Toppy has just
taken inhib, I think, yeah. Taking inhib means the mid lane inhib will go down, as well as the rest of UC hasn't had a chance to actually reset and heal up yet. So
UC are having to manually walk back into
they should just go straight to the Baron now.
Letting GU become the demolition crew inside of the red team's base.
Well, also they're not going to go towards the Baron. In fact, just going to go for a reset instead. Of course, picked up a lot of gold
they need to
in that last.
Their resources, as UC have only just come out of base full HP with new items.
It's going to be so difficult for UC to really contest. I mean, a 20-minute soul kind of spells the end of the game if you're either side here in the game.
And that
Lucian, still waiting.
That Lucian's speed when he activates his ultimate with the Cloud Soul is quite formidable.
Exactly,
UC,
waiting for that.
Looks like they're trying to clear vision here, but it's just going to be so difficult once multiple people start to walk over to the pit.
Yeah, as you see, there's so much damage. You just ate it, yeah. I mean, already in this game, only got 2 completed items and such a strong tank here from the Nunu.
The absolute size of that man, a complete unit.
He's the man. He has to be. He's the king, the man. This jungle is his. There is nothing that Debatable can do to even contest, and there's no way he can debate that fact.
No, that is undebatable, actually.
As you see, Griffith here, securing this Baron, of course, set on the other side of the map, does have teleport available, but I don't think UC are going to come up and contest this. Maybe look for a steal here, but I feel like it's a suicide mission at this point. It's very hard to steal against
Graves has a level advantage. Ezreal's going to come out and scout the health of the Baron, but Debatable's just getting everything thrown at him. And it's an intimidation play for the mental edge. Control Ward does actually go into the pit, so Debatable is going to have a fairly decent chance of surviving this. I mean, honestly, against the Nunu, it's going to be a pretty hard ask. As Toppy goes in, he lands the CC onto 2 and decides to ult out Herdia. And the showstopper is just going to seal his fate, really. And I feel with Nash gone, with Herdia gone, that's pretty much going to be this game.
Yeah, I think Griffith University
KST just completing his double Fortify Cape, actually. Not respecting the AP damage from the Lux. It's a pretty ingenious option. You get the double upgrade. Pro was looking for some sidesteps, but unfortunately, this Call of the Forge God is going to come a bit too late, and the cost of R2 is going to come a bit too late as well. As Call of the Forge God says, no thanks, I don't want to go into the enemy team, I want to go into the fountain.
You see the Nexus, he's got to take targeting down. Of course, that Baron was taken away quite quickly there. And of course, we'll help them take out that Nexus. And Griffith